Hi folks, Jason Moore here with MTGO Academy back for a wrap-up video. I want to thank all of you guys for checking out the matches, and I want to thank Malum and Just Sin for playing the games and providing us with some exciting action. We ended up playing against a mono-green Stompy deck, a red-white-blue Trinket Mage deck, which I wasn't previously that familiar with, and mono-blue Delver. And I think what we can take away from these matches, as far as these matchups go, in the Stompy matchup, I've played both sides of the matchup at this point, and it seems to be very much a nail biter matchup where the Stompy player is going to have the initiative early on, is going to deal some damage, and the Affinity player is going to need to stabilize and get some big creatures on the board. And both players are going to be playing a very close game where the life totals are going to get really low. There's going to be some sketchy moments or some hair-raising potential. The game will be on a thread, hanging by a thread for a few turns for either player. And the matchup feels very close. I think the Stompy deck has some really good tools in order to win, including Ledgewalker, which can't really be blocked or targeted very well. Pit Skulk, which also can't be blocked if it's pumped up adequately enough. Rancor, which allows the Stompy creatures to trade. And then Gleeful Sabotage out of the sideboard to basically have 2-for-1s against some of our creatures or our lands to set us back. Now, we have the typical advantages that we will have against most decks, but nothing in particular that's really going to host Stompy, maybe aside from Krark Clan Shaman, which has the potential to nullify their early game tempo and momentum completely just by wiping their board. So I think it's a close matchup. Like I said, I played both sides of it. I feel like Stompy is a little bit favored just based on the limited experience I have. But I could be wrong, and it could be very much dependent on the type of builds that each player is running with that day. As far as the Trinket Mage deck, it's really too hard or too soon to be very conclusive, but I think what we had, at least in that match, at our advantage is the potential to have the really broken, explosive starts, putting so much power on the board early and getting free wins, which this deck is good at doing. And whenever you have a deck that can get you free wins but is also resilient and robust without them, you're looking at a very powerful strategy to run with. And I think that made the difference there. I don't think the Trinket Mage lists, be they red, white, and blue, or more familiar to the Pauper metagame is the Dimir list, they're not going to be super broken. Like, those decks can't get free wins because they're playing a slower game and they're developing a game plan and using more marginal interactions than something like Affinity, which has interactions that can really be broken and really swing games out of control. And as far as Delver, that's a matchup for Affinity I've always felt comfortable playing. We're presenting grave threats that need to be dealt with, that can't reasonably be dealt with just by having creatures on the board for the Delver player. Now, they do have Spire Golem, which can block some of our creatures, but not all of them. It can only block 8 of our creatures out of 20. They sometimes play Frostburn Weird, which can block some of our creatures, but not all of them. It can trade with a number of our guys, but we have Galvanic Blast, which can remove any of their guys. We have a really versatile removal spell there. We have ways to dig into more threats between Thoughtcast, Stars, and Terrarians. And we have, of course, a Tog and Fling, which we have in every matchup to really make some moves for us. Now, I think just the abundance of threats that they need to deal with is going to be problematic. You know, we have, all of our guys can block a ninja and trade with it, and our hover guard can block a delver, can block any of their fairies. So just the way the matchup looks card for card, I feel like Affinity is pretty favored, which makes me feel comfortable whenever we're facing a Delver opponent. They also don't have many Hoser cards in their board. They might have Steel Sabotage. Really doesn't do enough to swing the matchup in a super powerful way. I mean, the best they can do with that is counter a Mirror Enforcer. It's really difficult to predict when we're going to be casting something like a Mirror Enforcer because it's hard to predict how many artifacts we can actually play out in a turn, so we can have really explosive plays. So counter magic becomes worse for the Delver player in this matchup, and them bouncing one of our free artifacts or 1 mana artifacts really doesn't set us back that much, so we can play it immediately, to follow up. So that's a summary of the matchups we played. We didn't get to play against Burn deck or Goblins, Mono Black Control, Fisher Post decks, but all those matchups introduce more dynamic elements and factors and variables. So if you guys are interested, I'd be happy to play this deck a little bit more and we can get some more data. But let me know. Definitely say some stuff in the comments section, how you feel about this list and what you want to see in the future, and we can definitely come back and revisit this deck or play something else. So I just wanted to do a wrap-up video, kind of summarize some things I took away from these matches. Let me know if you agree or disagree. If you'd like to add anything else, I'd really appreciate that. So thanks for watching, guys. We will talk to you later for the next installment of Dime a Dozen. All right, take care.